I think I was the favorite. There was nobody that could oppose me to be the first president of FAMUSA, because the entire foundation, you understand, I was the leader. But it did not occur to me that I must be the leader, because I was already the president of the Laguna Mandingo Association in Pennsylvania. So I felt this was a mission. And that, since that mission was accomplished, I think it was necessary for somebody to lead that process. So if FAMUSA was a campaign promise, was an inaugural promise, it was not necessary for me to leave the Mandingo Association of Pennsylvania, because the mission has been accomplished and that mission has carried me. I know some of my friends who were with me at the time were angry why I refused to be the president of FAMUSA, because they felt the organization was still young to be given to somebody who does not know the aspiration of the organization. But I felt it was an opportunity for this community, and I was thrilled and happy that I led that foundation. And we felt that the organization was intended to unite our people, not to divide us, because FAMUSA today has become one of the best things that has ever happened to this community. You understand? Because before FAMUSA, we had organizations around here. I mean, Ishmael Kumara was president before we became president. We had KD and all the guys became president before we even decided to be president. I was living in a suburb in Pennsylvania. I did not want to come to Philadelphia because, like I told you, because of our involvement in politics in Liberia and the way how things were orchestrated, it was frustrating. But with the blessing of Vasiki Kone and Kwame Fofana, they encouraged me to come to Philadelphia. They told me that the Philadelphia Mandingo Association was in coma and needed somebody to revive that system so that the people in Pennsylvania can benefit from it. This is how I decided to move to Philadelphia, to make sure that I engaged the process. And in fact, those brothers who encouraged me to come to Philadelphia, we had a disagreement on the way, because they wanted me to disrespect the old people that had the organization. I said, no, if I came here to make a difference, I will not behave the way how I see the Limani situation going on. So I'm going to behave the way I think I can make a difference. So basically, like I said from the beginning, this is not a political forum. This is not a political discussion, because who I see here, I do not see a political opponent. And I do not even consider that we have no opponent. So basically, I want to, from the inception of this organization, my whole vision was empowerment. The word community empowerment, community unity empowerment, as a motto for FAMUSA, it was something that I was looking at from the beginning. And I believe that was the bedrock of the organization. We say community empowerment because when you empower your community, when you give the people the responsibility to take care of themselves, when you allow them to participate in the decision-making of their organization, they become empowered. They feel part of the process. They feel part of the decision-making process. Then, of course, whatever decision that comes out of that, it is always necessary, it's always conventional that people rally around that decision and make good of their promise. So this is why we emphasize on community empowerment, because with community empowerment, you respect people. You get them involved. You got our old people involved. You got our young people involved. So once you do that, you get people collaborating with each other. Then once that collaboration exists, then you have a relationship. Once we have that relationship, we're bound together, and we have a project that we all have agreed to foster. Then, of course, we know very well that I'm not going to go in conflict with my brother, because from the genesis of that project, I have respected my brother to participate in this process. So once the brother is empowered, the community is empowered. Once the community is empowered, we have a federation that has been empowered. So once that happens, we all can collectively do something that will benefit all of us. So this is why we emphasize on community empowerment, because it helps address most of our issues. You understand? In our medical setting, we have a culture, and we have a unique culture that we all need to respect. I have to understand that, Brother Bility is my older brother. I have to understand that there are older folks, that we need to respect. So we believe in community empowerment, because once you give the decision, once you empower your chapters, then you are able to unite them in a way that will be beneficial to all of us. So that's why we emphasize on community empowerment as a focus point of our campaign. We talk about transparency. Once you empower people, then they do things together. Then it's no secret anymore. Okay? Once that openness is there, because if we're doing things together, I don't have to hide anything from you. Then why it brings openness, oneness to each other. So once that openness is there, it ensures public trust. I can gain your trust, we can gain my trust, because what we're doing is not secret. Because I've decided to empower that community from the onset of the whole thing. So we can gain public trust, and we can also encourage people participation, because you've already told the man you need to be involved. So the man does not feel, there's no hindrance to say, well, I'm not going to get involved because I was not told. Because you gave him you have given him the decision-making process. So once that happens, participation is enhanced. If we disclose information in a manner consistent with the law. We have a constitution. I can inform you of what is necessary because we have empowered this community. So we're looking at community empowerment in a broader spectrum, where Mr. X is being admonished of what is going to happen to his community, so he does not have any secret. See, so once that happens, the issue of transparency, openness, all of these things will fall in line. So that's why we believe from the beginning of FAMUSA, we believe that community, once we can empower community, we will have a good federation. So that has been our focus from the beginning of this campaign. Then we have ID card system, because if you empower people and you create a membership data, we say, all right, let's say we say FAMUSA should have an ID card system, so that each state, like let's take Pennsylvania or Minnesota for instance. FAMUSA has an ID card system where it has people in Pennsylvania, people in Minnesota can have FAMUSA Minnesota branch. Then we'll be able to collect all of those information and make sure that numbers, because in this country, in any setting, numbers are very important. You can't say you got all of the membership, you don't even have record of them. So it will help, first of all, there's another empowerment aspect. It helps the organization here to raise money. It also helps the organization, FAMUSA, to also raise money, because if we are giving an ID card based on a percentage level, let's say Minnesota can have almost 25% or 30% of the ID card proceed, then you indirectly, you're contributing towards FAMUSA. FAMUSA can have 80% of whatever proceed that will be generated from the ID card sales. So once people are identified, this guy can leave from here tomorrow without ID and go to Philadelphia and be able to attend the Madingo Association meeting and be able to participate in those activities once he has the identity. We also want to attach benefit to those ID cards. We want the ID card to be more important, so that when you have the ID card and you use that ID card to go and buy something from Sam Clubs, BJ's, you understand? You can have discount, because these businesses need numbers, they need people, they need population where they can benefit from. So we are anticipating to engage those businesses that are around here to make sure that whoever shows our ID card must have a discount. of any sale that they get involved in. There's also the ID card system also help us to unite our community because we get to know who Mr. X is, who Mr. X, what state he comes from. You understand? So it also helps us during the election process. Sometimes some people, just came in the country and perhaps the chapter decided to nominate them to be a delegate. You don't have all those ID cards in your hand, but if you can have FAMUSA ID card to identify you at FAMUSA elections, at FAMUSA's conventions, these are easier way where we can identify our people and also help us to generate funds for the organization and the various chapters as well. So we're going to embark on the ID card process and attach more benefit to the ID card so that it will not only be in your pocket just for identity process, it can also have an economic benefit to you for having an ID card. So that's why we intend to have the ID card system introduced when we come to the leadership. And we talk about bridging gap between the federation. And like I told you from the beginning, the organization was intended to unite us. Today, if you look at most of our elders are going away from the organization because the way we have used the organization, we're fighting every day. Somebody is throwing stone at somebody. We're all fighting, It's so embarrassing. You understand? Well, if this organization was created to unite us, it shouldn't divide us. No old people want to associate themselves with something that they get disrespected. So as a result, you got a lot of old people now going back. And what are we losing? We're losing that blessing. You understand? So because this is not organization for just the youth. It's for all of us. It's not organization for just the men. It's for the females. But no women want to ridicule themselves when we are fighting. On the left side and everywhere. That does not show any maturity. So we want to bridge the gap. We want to get the old people back. We want to get our sisters back. We want to get them involved into this process. That's another concept of empowerment. You show the relevance of people in your community. And once you do that, you empower them. You encourage them to do what they're supposed to do. We want to convince skeptical community members, and that we are real. And as we put those practice into reality, to make sure that we go after all of the brothers and sisters, our old folks that are disgruntled as a result of our misbehavior, then that will indicate to people that we are serious. You understand? So that shows our seriousness. We form a partnership that overcome barriers and promote understanding. Here and in Liberia, we have neighbors. We have partners. We have other Liberians. When I was president of the Pennsylvania Mandingo Association, the medium that I used in order to bridge the gap was to create a King Saboso lecture series. The King Saboso lecture series was a caveat, was a vehicle that we use to attract other people. Tion Gongo, before he took his position in Monrovia, was one of the first person to speak because we wanted people that are not part of our community to speak to us, to tell us how they feel about us, so that we can understand how other people feel about us. So as we do that, in the midst of that conflict, in the midst of that pandemonium, we encourage other people to come to our community. Because once you invite backbiters, some of you who knew backbiter way back, we used to call him Mr. NDPL. It's a crime man, very reputable person, has been on that King Saboso lecture series. You understand? So they come and talk to us about their feelings, what transpired between the Crown and Mandingo people, and how can we avoid that. So once we encourage those bridge gapping, will help us to mend some of those barriers between us and our neighbors. I was very impressed today when I saw Brother Bility in the office with it. You understand? Because you see that, our involvement in every aspect of our community is very important. You understand? Because if we don't do that, we isolate ourselves from the larger picture. So I think it's very important that we engage the community in all aspects. Any way how we can get them, we have to do that. The community needs every Mandingo to offer his. We need everybody. We need everybody. So this is why we're talking about empowerment. Because once we empower people, once we respect people, they give the best of themselves. Management is not for you to do everything, but how you get the best out of people. So we think that empowering people is the best way you get the best out of them. So this is why we continue to focus on community empowerment, because what it does, it does not only bring people for them to give their best out, it unites us. It makes us the one people that we are all yearning for. So this is why we focus on community empowerment with respect to everybody coming together to solve people problems. Because once we're together, most of the problems are just minute. We discuss it on a friendly and brotherly manner. Like I told you, this is not a political forum, because I don't see any political opponent here. And that's a clear indication that I'm speaking to my brothers. We hold regular meetings with various chapters. When I was the organizing chair of FEMUSA, there was something that I encouraged. At the time, we never had any board because we were there organizing the organization. We had two segments of leadership. You had a planning committee that Talata were hearing at the time. Then you had the leadership, then you had the leadership level that I was heading, and Ishmael Kumara was the co-chair for that. So when the planning committee makes their plan, it comes to the leadership level. That means the various presidents that were there, you understand, will decide on what the planners have done. And we did that in order to encourage whoever will become the new president must know that you need to talk to the chapters. You need to get the chapters involved. So we made it mandatory, even before the convention in Philadelphia, that it is necessary that the chapters are involved. Because let me tell you, when during the formation, when you're leading something, the number of people you talk to, it's more than what other people, because everybody in the organization will have their segment of contribution. But if you are the head, you have that leverage to talk to many people. There were attempts to organize similar to like FEMUSA before, it failed. Okay? And as a leader, I wanted to know what made that attempt fail. And I was engaged vigorously with people who were part of that process. What made you guys to fail? Why is it you couldn't organize a Mandingo union at a time? Before we came here. And I realized that they put more emphasis on individuals. The local BT say, okay, he's a personality. Okay, they attach Minnesota to him, for instance. Instead of attaching Minnesota to a community, they attach it to individuals. So when BD leaves from Minnesota and transfers to North Dakota, the representation here is gone. Okay, so I was in constant contact with Kessely, Anthony Kessely, those brothers that were involved, the Mariamu Fufana from who was the Quadribone Mandingo Association head at the time, because she was one of those active female in that process. They had everybody. They had Lasana Kroma. They had all of the brothers we taught are educated. But why couldn't they achieve something like this? You understand? Because the vision was not there. You understand? They attached the organization to individuals. And once individual fails, that whole concept goes away. So why we decided to do the reverse? Since I was a chapter leader, I said, okay, but what we're going to do, we're going to invest in chapters, because the chapters will always stay. Even if the president leaves, the chapter is there. So we have to empower the chapters. We have to make sure that chapters, any leader that comes there, must always have a periodic meetings with their various chapters, so that before even you go to the board of directors to avoid conflict, before even you go to the board of directors, you and the chapters have already discussed your project. Unfortunately, all of those are lost right now. And as a result, you see a lot of conflict because chapters are not informed of what is happening. So if this system had remained, okay, and the president is discussing his project before the board meeting, the chapters are the board members, and you finish discussing, you have some kind of understanding. Before it goes to the board, the issue is already resolved. So all these things were intended so that we can lessen the conflict. We can reduce all of those personal animosity. But unfortunately, it's not happening. So we talk about, we want to do that. We want to bring that system back. We talk about periodic visit to chapters, chapter states, and also make sure that we do religious days in our religion has to be respected. We will say, okay, this year we can say we have it in Minnesota. The leadership of FEMUSA will come here. We all will come here, organize it, and make sure that our brothers here in Minnesota benefit and enjoy the Eid al-Fitr that day. So that the occasion cannot only be based on convention. Because the only time you see leaders going to chapters is because when convention comes. You know, I have been on the campaign trail, and I hear people, and I hear chapters complaining. The only time we see y'all when it's election time. We don't want to do that. We want to engage people. We want to engage the community. We want to empower them. And the only way we can empower them, we have to keep engaged. We make sure that we visit them. We make sure that some of those occasions, the Eid al-Fitr, the Eid al-Mubarak, all of those things are respected. We can select cities that will be willing to get it, then so that we can go there and have those programs executed in the best way, so that people can always be familiar with their leaders who are leading them, so they can have the opportunity to talk to them on a one-on-one basis, so some of those conflicts can be alleviated. The board executive relationship, as I told you earlier, is very important. We shouldn't be fighting. It's one organization. If the leadership has a project, you understand, the board of directors must be able to support that. So what we're going to do, we're going to get the board of directors involved in the planning process, so that because if it is all of our project, you will not feel that the executive is trying to accomplish something isolated from you. We all will create this thing together. We all support it. We all nurture it and make sure that it succeeds. So because it's not one organization, it's not two organizations, it's just one organization. We make sure that the board has their deserved respect, and we also expect the mutual respect from the board of directors. So I don't see any issue of conflict, except people because sometimes in our community, if somebody has something personal against Muhammad Bility, and Muhammad Bility has a project, and instead of dealing with the issue on an organizational level, because of that personal issue between he and myself, will surface during that organizational issue. So that has been one of the problems that has retarded some of our progress. And I hope that we will, once we engage these people, once we engage the community and also get the board involved in the planning aspect, and make sure that some of the board members are part of the committees that are responsible to organize these projects, then of course that will reduce the conflict in essence. We seek expertise of all legal-minded members were needed. I mean, we need, like, we need all our brothers. Constitution nowadays, we go to the convention decides it. We make sure that we have people who have no expertise while the convention is discussing about it. Those who have no area of expertise should be able to look into the Constitution and have the legal guidance of it, so that when we write the Constitution, not only that the convention decides it, but it's also legally minded. So that's going to be one of our focus. Develop a code of conduct. I think there's a code of conduct created by the board of directors, and there should be a code of conduct that will also govern when the board of directors and the executive meet. Well, this is our behavior. This is how we need to, this is how we need to work. So once these things happen, I think it reduces the conflict. And once the conflict is reduced, my brother, we can do a lot of things. We can do a lot of things, and I'm hopeful that these things can happen. Strengthen our sisters. Back a few years ago, you had a women wing, and people sometimes wonder why our sisters are not involved. And we should begin to ask ourselves, why are they going away? It's just a man club now. I mean, the way some of the ridicule we take as men, women will not accept that. Okay? Now, how do let's get them involved. It's time that we begin to give, that share of responsibility to this organization, because our focus now is that every time we send project to Liberia, we send money to Liberia, we do all of this thing. But what we forget to know, we're not concentrating on ourselves here first. Because if we are the foundation of the organization, you, myself, and other people saw our parents do some of these community service, go to people's houses and settle disputes, arrange marriages. All of these things were sacrifices, and we saw our parents doing those. We felt that it became a heritage because we had to follow that, because we saw our parents practically doing these things. So we do not have to go to any formal education to learn that, because these are things that you don't learn in school. And if we saw our parents doing it, we were inclined that, well, that's the best thing to do, to serve your community, because I know most people here, I know what their father did. They get up in the morning, from the morning to the evening, they're solving people's problems. They're solving people's problems, and we all saw that. I mean, I saw my father doing a lot of, serving as national chairman of the National Muslim Council. It was all about solving people's problems. It was all about solving people's problems. At the same time, he would solve people's problems, and the problem would come to him. But it did not discourage them. And we saw those energy, those resolve in those old people. And that has encouraged some of us to make sure that community service, form the tenet, the basic of our behavior. It has formed part of our upbringing. And whatever we do, it has affected every life status of us. So we believe our community service is part of us, because we saw it practically. So, but then what we're doing now for our children, to see that same thing in us, that makes us different from other people. We want to encourage our parents and our brothers now that our kids must begin to come to our meeting, so that they can see their father participating in FEMUSA activities, so that we can concentrate on how we can begin to have a structure. FEMUSA right now is ran on a whoever the leader is. You just the leader. Maybe perhaps in somebody's house. When FEMUSA was first created, I incorporated it. The address was at my house. It shouldn't be that. It should not be that way. We should have a building. I'm impressed that the people, anytime you want to meet them, you come to that building. So we are focusing this year. We want to have a structure. We want to have an identity. We want to have a headquarters where when you have an immigration issue, you know where to go. Where if someone has some level, some kind of donation they give us, you know where to go. You know, if you went to Philadelphia, in Chinatown, about 2-3 days ago, I visited a Jewish building there. They have a program in Chinatown for Chinese people. They come from China, they don't speak English, you understand? Then you have the ESL program there. They have another basic business tutorial class. The moment that person graduates from that class, they have grants that he gave to them for businesses. Less than 2-3 months, you found a Chinese man opening a Chinese store or a Chinese shop, and he's capable of employing 5-3 person. You know, and we have the number. Why we can't do that? Okay, I have a friend in Philadelphia, Vofi Jabatep. Vofi Jabatep has been in the non-profit business for long. He has an establishment. When I became president of Lima, Vofi was operating with $80,000, but today Vofi is operating more than $25 million. You know, but we know he has a facility where we go and have meetings. Why we can do that for ourselves? We have the number. Vofi does not have the number. You understand? So that's going to be our focus. We're going to make sure that FEMUSA is just not on the left side. FEMUSA must be and it must be a structure that we can see. That people come from elsewhere, they say, all right, go to this address, you can see FEMUSA. Once we can establish one model, we can take that same model from somewhere and carry it to another area and establish. And once we do that, we're not only creating that awareness, but we're also creating jobs. We're creating empowerment for people. So once we can establish one model, we can take that model to different state, to different state, to different. Then the moment you see 5 years from now, you see that that model has been established more than 6 states that has been able to provide what these brothers are doing here today. You know, our old people can go there and get their services. Our mothers are